Hello and welcome to my channel, Distinctive Crochet. My name is Priscilla and I would like to thank all my new subscribers for coming to check me out and all my returning subscribers for spending some time with me. Alright everyone, so today we are here to create this gorgeous ruffle cowl, and the materials you're going to need today is at least I would say about 600 to 700, I would say 600 to 800 depending on the size you make it. On the smaller end it'll be 600 yards, on the larger end 800 yards of I am using the Red Heart Super Saver ombre. I think it would look really gorgeous in ombre yarns or variegated yarns, but you are more than welcome to use any yarn that you like. This particular size is a 4 medium worsted weight yarn, and that is the yarn that I'm going to be using today. If you are interested in the color, this is called Hot Sauce. Alright, so that is the yarn I'm going to be using. So you will need about 600 to 800 yards of worsted weight yarn. I'm going to be using a 6mm hook. Of course, you're going to need your snips, a yarn needle. The stitch marker is optional for you to keep your place, as well as the buttons are optional as well. If you make this cowl large enough, you could just easily sew up the seam halfway, and then that way it can fit right over your head, and you could just slide it on. Or for me, I like a closer fitting cowl, so I am going to be using the buttons, and that will allow the cowl to fit closely over my neck, because I won't be putting it on over my head. I'll just be buttoning it closed. Alright, but those are definitely optional. Just make it a little larger if you want it to fit over your head, and then you don't have to worry about buttons. Okay, so those are the materials you're going to be needing for today's tutorial. And then once you have that, you can go ahead and get started. I am going to be starting with some I'm going to be starting with some double crochet foundation stitches. If you're not comfortable with double crochet foundation stitches, you could definitely do the chain method, but I would recommend going in the back bump of the chain. That way you get a nice clean edge. But anyway, you would need a total of 26 stitches. So I'm going to work up 26 foundation double crochet stitches, and then when I have those done, I will meet you back. I do have a tutorial on how to do double crochet foundation stitches, so if you need more help with that, and if you're interested in learning how to do that, I will link the tutorial down below where you can check it out, and then that way you can get the hang of the foundation double crochet stitches, because I do use those a lot in my tutorials, and that could be very helpful to you. I think it's a great thing to learn if you haven't already. And then once you have that together, you can come back to the video and work on this cowl with me. Alright, but I'm just going to go ahead and continue working up my 26 foundation double crochet stitches, and once I have those finished, I will come back and show you what to do next. Alright, I'll meet you right back. Alright everyone, and I made it back. So I have my 26 foundation stitches completed, and now I'm ready to work on the next step. So what you want to do from here is you want to chain 2, and this chain 2 does not count as a stitch. We're going to chain 2 and turn, and now what we're going to do is we are going to work in this front loop only. So if I turn it this way, okay, so if I turn it this way, you have the back loop, which is facing away from you, and then the front loop, which is the closest to you. So we're going to work right under that front loop, leaving this back one behind. Okay, so we're just going to go in under that front loop, and we're going to leave that back one behind there, and we're just going to work our double crochet. All right, just like that. So we're going to continue that down for the first 14 stitches. All right, so there's 1, here's 2, here is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh, that was all split. Here's 11, 12, 13, and 14. Okay, so the next thing we want to do now is we want to go ahead and either you can place a stitch marker here to mark your space, or you can just remember or just be able to see the change in stitching to keep track of what you're doing. So either go ahead and mark this stitch here, or if you can recognize the difference in your stitches, then you should be fine. If you're a new beginner, I would definitely go ahead and recommend you mark that stitch so you can remember the next step. Okay, so the next thing we're going to be doing is the last 12 stitches. We are going to go ahead and work a treble crochet. So treble crochet is just you yarn over twice, and then we're still working in the front loop only. We're going to go under that front loop, and then we're going to pull through 2, pull through 2, and pull through 2. So that was a total of 3 pull through 2s. Okay, so that is the only difference between a double and a treble crochet. All right, so you just yarn over twice, and then you pull through 2 3 times. Okay, so we're just going to continue that all the way down to the end of our row here, and that should be 12 of those treble crochets. Okay, so this is what it should look like so far, and as you can see, there's definitely a height change from this stitch to the next stitch. So that is why I'm not using a marker, but if it's hard for you to recognize that, then remember to go ahead and place your stitch marker on either the last double crochet or the first treble, and then that way you know when to change stitch count. Okay, because we're going to be stitch height, because we're going to be doing the same 2 stitches for the entire project. I mean, going forward until I show you the next step. So just go ahead and mark that if you need to. If not, the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and chain up 2 and turn. The chain 2 does not count as a stitch. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and work in our very first stitch, and we're going to continue with a treble crochet. But as you can see from working in that front loop, it left this loop behind, and that is exactly what we want to do. But now since we are turning, we want to still have that front, we would still want to have this the loop on this side left. So instead of working in the front loop now, since we changed sides, we have to work in the back loop. All right, so we're going to yarn over twice for our treble crochet, and this time we're going in the back loop. Okay, so that idea is you want to have a free loop on this front side of your work at all times. Okay, and you just adjust which one you go into in order to achieve that goal. All right, so we are on the front side of our work. So if we're on the front side of our work, that means we need to work in the back loop. All right, so we're going to go ahead and yarn over twice. And again, for these first 12 stitches, we're going to be doing a treble crochet, so you can count that out if you like. And then once you get to that 13th stitch, you're going to change over to a double crochet stitch. And remember, we're working in that back loop only, leaving this front loop behind so that we can have that on the front of our work. Okay. Okay, so I made it to my 13th stitch, and now we're going to go changing back to double crochets to finish out the end of this row here. And remember, we're working in that back loop only since we're on the front side of our work. And if you are using that stitch marker, remember to move your stitch marker up with each row so that you can keep track of your progress. Okay, keep track of where you at for changing those stitches. All right, so I made it there to my last one, and now I'm going to go ahead and chain 2 and turn. And now we're going to work right into our first stitch, and since we're on the back side of our work, so you can see this is the back side. Since we're on the back side of our work, we now have to work into the front loop. So this on the back side, the front loop is what we work into, and on the front side we work into the back loop. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. If not, you can just kind of look at it and you can see there's no loops left here on this side, but they are on this side. So we want to keep that same pattern going. So we're just going to go ahead and turn our work. And now we need to start off with those 14 double crochets. So we're going to just yarn over once, and we're going to go into that front loop. Okay. Alright, so I made it to where I need to go ahead and change now. So I'm going to go ahead and start working in the front loops for my treble stitches. Let me just recount this really quick. Yep. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and change over to my treble stitches, working in that front loop only. You could also take a different colored stitch marker if you like and mark either the front or the back, and then that way you know if you're on the side with the stitch marker, then it's either the front or the back, whichever you decided to mark, and then that will help you remember if you need to work in either the front loop or the back loop. Okay, so that is another tip if you would like to go ahead and do that. That is great as well. If not, if you're feeling comfortable with recognizing which side is which, that's awesome as well. Okay, I'm just gonna double check my count. Oops. Okay. All right, everyone. So once you have that completed, what you're going to do is you're just going to keep repeating those 2 rows until you get the length or the width that you need, I should say, because actually the cowl is you're working it like this, but the cowl is going to be worn this way. So this part is going to be wrapped around your neck, and then this part is going to kind of be laying over your shoulder. So this part is the part that needs to wrap around your neck comfortably. So if you don't like anything too tight, make sure when you wrap it around you have a nice amount of room left over, and then that way you can be comfortable moving on to the next step. Okay, but once you do have enough that you feel comfortable, I do want you to go ahead and work another additional 2 more rows after that. So once you feel comfortable having enough rows to wrap around your neck, go ahead and work another 2 rows of this, and then we will move on to the next step. Okay, so the 2 rows where either you're working in the back loop on the front side or the front loop on the back side. Okay, so those are the only 2 different rows. It's still the same stitch count for double crochet, still the same stitch count for treble crochets, and just keep doing those 2 rows until you get it long enough. Once you have it wide enough to reach around your neck comfortably, the next thing you want to do is, and after you have made your 2 extra rows, make sure you're ending off on the front side row. So I just worked in the back loops to get the ridge to stay out in the front, and then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to slip stitch right into the middle of here of this top stitch, and then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to start working my ruffles. So to do the ruffles, we're going to do a double crochet into these loops that were left behind. Okay, so you want to work actually 3 double crochets. So that's 1, 2, and 3, and then we're going to do that for each of these loops. So here's the next one. So that's why it's important that you have all of the loops left on the front side, so that when you go back to work the ruffles, all the ruffles are on one side of your cowl, and it really gives this full gorgeous ruffle effect, and just gorgeous for a statement piece cowl. Alright, so we're just going to keep ruffling putting 3 double crochets into each of those loops that were left behind. Okay, so just like this. Three stitches in one, 3 double crochets in each of those front loops that were left behind, and that will give us our ruffle effect for this gorgeous ruffle cowl. There's my yarns on the camera. See if I can bring that front. There's better. Okay, so even when we get into the treble crochets down here, even when we get to those stitches, we're still going to use the double crochet to make our ruffle, because we want it to be nice and full. And if we do the bigger stitch, it might not look as full, so we just wanted to do the bigger stitch to give us a little bit more room near the bottom of our cowl, and we didn't, necessarily need as much around our neck. So that is the shaping idea behind the double crochets and the treble crochets. But once we start ruffling, then we are just going to use double crochets all the way down the row, and we're working into that loop that we had left behind. Alright, so then we get almost done here, and then I can show you what that looks like. I just got a few more to go. More. Stay with me. Okay, I think there's one more right here. Make sure we work into that one as well. Alright, let me show you what this looks like so far. Okay. So this would have been your last row, so you don't want to work any ruffles into that, because if you are doing buttons, I'm sorry about that. If you are doing buttons, that is where you're going to attach your button, or have your buttonhole, either way. Yeah, it's probably going to be the buttonholes on the last row, and on the first row you can attach your buttons, because this is more of a tighter stitch than the last row. Alright, because we started with that foundation stitch. Okay, so this is what it's looking like so far, and what we're going to do now is we are going to, since we have made it to the end of our row here, we're just going to go ahead and slip stitch right into the middle of that bottom stitch of the next row. So just slip stitch right on in there and turn, and now we're ready to work into these loops. So all we're going to do is yarn over for our double crochet, and then we're going to find that first loop, which it looks like I'm going to work into this one here just so that it's not anything gappy. Let's see. Let's put 3 double crochets in there, and then here's my next loop right here. So I'm going to work 3 double crochets in there. Okay, so that's the idea of how we are going to work our ruffles now. So you're just going to go ahead and put 3 double crochets into each of the loops that were left behind, and when you get to the end of the row, you just slip stitch into that top stitch to make it to the next row of loops that you can put your double crochet stitches in for the ruffles. And then you just keep doing that until you get to all the way to the other end of your cowl. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this row right here, and I'm going to finish this row right here, and this is my last row, so I'm not going to be working in these loops here because I want to leave this to put my buttons on. So I'm just going to work this row here, and then I will come back and show you what to do next. Alright everyone, so I made it back. I got all the way to the last row and finished all of my ruffles. So like I said, I want to leave this row here, and that'll give us enough room to close it up, either if you plan on sewing it together or using your buttons. And if you don't like to sew with a tapestry needle, you can always use your crochet hook to close it up, however you like. As I did say, I will be using buttons on mine, and I'll show you how to do that in a bit. But I just wanted to show you I made it back. I left this row here, so now I'm ready to go back and do my second row of ruffles. So all I'm going to do is just go ahead and chain 2, and that does not count as a stitch. So now I'm turning and I'm working into that same one, and I'm going to do 3 double crochets into that stitch. Okay, and then I'm going to do 3 double crochets in the next stitch. And this is just going to give us a more fuller look on our cowl. I am not going to do a 3rd row of ruffles. This is just going to be 2 rows of ruffles. So once we finish the second row of ruffles on each stitch, each row that we've done so far, then we will go ahead and move on to the next step. All right, but I'm just gonna finish ruffling this row, and when I get down to the end of the row, I'll come back and show you how to connect to the next row so that you can continue working your ruffles. All right, so I'll be right back. All right everyone, so I made it to the end of that row with the ruffle. I just have one more stitch. So this is what that last stitch looks like right here. It's this, but we're working into this top part of it here. So I'm going to put 3 double crochets in here, and then remember we slip stitch to get over to that side. So here is that slip stitch right here. So we're going to skip over that slip stitch and work into the very first stitch of the next row. So we don't have to slip stitch or anything, we can just continue working into the next row. So we're just going to put 3 double crochets right in there in that first stitch, and then we're going to continue on with 3 double crochets in each stitch all the way across this next row here. So this is the row I just left off on, and this is the row I'm going to be working next. All right, so that does give a gorgeous full look, ruffle look with that second row of ruffling. So I definitely recommend you do that. It's up to you if you want to add more ruffle or not, but I think 2 rows is really good for this project. And so once you finish all of your rows all the way across of your second row of ruffles, then I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do the add on the buttons. So I actually already have my piece completed. So this is what it looks like here. So this is my completed piece here, and as you can see, it is very gorgeous. So the bottom part is wider, and that's the part that's gonna like across your shoulder, and then this is the part that goes around your neck like that. All right, so what we're gonna do now is we're just gonna add the 2 buttons, and I want to make sure I'm adding the buttons onto the foundation crochet part, or the very first row that we started, our foundation row. And then the button holes, will just be in between the stitches that we already made, because you can see it's a decent sized gap. But once we get the buttons on this part here, then we can just close it up like that and use any buttonhole. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and grab my grab a piece of yarn. See from the end of my skein here. All right, everyone, so now I'm just going to go ahead and place it just a little bit, maybe about an inch down from the top. And you want to make sure that this is the double crochet end and not the treble crochet end, so you can just see how it gets wider at the bottom, and then you know that's the bottom part. So we want to make sure we're at the top part of this when we're adding our button on. So just about an inch down from the top, I'm going to go ahead and put in sew on my button. All right, so just any way you like to sew on your buttons. I'm just going to do very simple cross here. And then I'll probably just might not be able to get in one more because this is thick yarn, so I'll just probably go under that tail in. I'll probably just go under what I have done so far a couple times just to secure it like that, and then maybe pull it in there for a knot. All right, so once I have that secured, then I can go ahead and do one more slip, cut off my end, and then that looks like enough yarn for me to do the next button. So for the next button, I'm just gonna do pretty much the same thing, maybe about 2 inches down from that, somewhere around there. It's pretty good. And about 1.5 inches to 2 inches, and then I'm just going to go ahead and sew that in the same way. I am leaving a little bit of a tail to weave in for the other end so that it is going to stay nice and secure. Okay, and now I just need to come on the underside of it and knot it a couple times that way. All right, and then I'll just snip my end. I'll go back and weave in the other ends off camera, but I just wanted to show you that now it is able to be closed up. If you wanted to actually sew yours together, depending on, see, there's the buttons there. Okay, so it's nice and closed, and then it just stays open on the side where you can have it on one shoulder like that. So I think that is absolutely gorgeous. All right, but if you made yours big enough to where it actually fits over your head, then you would just want to sew down this part, so just the very top part of it, and you want to leave the bottom open so that it can lay over your shoulders. Okay, so maybe about I'd say about 3 to 4 inches from the top, you want to sew that down, depending on your preference, and then leave the rest open so that it can lay over your shoulder, and it'll give a look like that. All right, so all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to weave in the rest of my ends on this cowl, and then I'll come back and show you a picture of me wearing it so that you can get the full look. All right, so thank you so much for coming along this tutorial with me. I really hope you enjoyed it, and please let me know in the comments down below, what do you think? Are you going to be making one? I would love to hear all of that, and of course if you want to send me pictures, I would love to see them as well. I do enjoy and getting inspired by everyone else's work also. Alright, so please remember to give this video a thumbs up, leave me a comment down below, share this video out, I'd appreciate it, and I will see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching.